Did you really think it would be that easy? Kara's voice was low, sharp but tinged with disbelief. She stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, staring at the remnants of the shattered war fleet orbiting Lysara Prime. Sparks of dying energy flared as debris drifted silently in the black. Jalen smirked, leaning against the railing, his hands folded behind his head. Easy? No. But victory tastes sweeter when you earn it. Kara's eyes narrowed. Sweet, huh? Is that what we call watching billions die? Jalen shrugged, but his gaze betrayed something deeper. A flicker of unease he tried to hide. We did what we had to. They threatened everything. Their fleets, their weapons. They left us no choice. The bridge fell into a tense silence. Outside the viewport, the explosion of Lysara Prime's capital city painted the void in burning reds and golds. It was beautiful, terrifying, a painting of triumph smeared with fear. Kara swallowed. She could feel it. The unease beneath Jalen's bravado, a shadow crawling over the pride that humans carried like armor. And now? She asked quietly. What comes after this? Before Jalen could answer, a deep, resonant hum pulsed through the ship, the kind of vibration that made metal shiver and systems blink in warning. Both of them instinctively stiffened. Status report, Jalen barked. Lieutenant Sora's fingers danced across the console. Her face was pale, illuminated by the flickering light of the control panels. Sensors just picked up something. Massive. Movement. Not local, not Lysara, something else. The hum grew louder. A low rolling thrum that made the very air feel alive. Kara took a step forward, eyes wide, trying to see beyond the blackness outside. And then she saw them. A fleet. Enormous. Angular. Impossibly fast. Emerging from the dark between stars. Dreadnoughts unlike anything human eyes had imagined. Vast as moons, bristling with weapons that gleamed like frozen fire. Their arrival was silent, but the pressure it exerted was deafening. Jalen's jaw tightened. Earth, he whispered. Kara's heart sank. The voice of the enemy never came first. That was humanity's advantage. First thought, first move. But this was different. This was not Lysara. This was home, or something like it, with a fury that made even seasoned soldiers hold their breath. Kara's mind raced. Years of planning, battles fought, victories celebrated, they all seemed fragile now. A castle built on sand. Are they coming for us? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Sora shook her head, though the shaking didn't hide her fear. They're not just coming. They're claiming, and their pace. They're faster than anything we faced. Calculating. Precise. Jalen moved to the viewport. The distant shadows of the dreadnoughts flickered with faint glows of energy cores and weapon ports. Each ship was enormous, a city of steel and plasma. A single vessel could obliterate an entire fleet in minutes. Kara felt something cold sink into her chest. Victory had been hollow. Celebration, premature. They had thought Lysara defeated was the end. They had not accounted for the silent patience of Earth's dreadnoughts, the silent fury of a civilization that had watched humanity grow reckless across the stars. The ship shook as a pulse of energy washed over it from the fleet. Warning lights flashed red. Communications went dead. The hum became a roar in Kara's ears. Brace for impact, Jalen said, voice steady, but his knuckles were white against the railing. Kara glanced at him, and for the first time, she saw the cracks beneath his swagger. Humans survived through instinct, through cleverness, through refusing to yield. But even Jalen had limits. The fleet was closing fast. Every second counted. Kara's mind snapped into focus. Survival, strategy, humanity's unyielding spirit. They needed it all now. And somewhere in the silent void, between burning debris and the shadow of colossal dreadnoughts, Kara felt it. A question that burned hotter than fear. How long could humanity's pride and cunning withstand the reckoning that had finally arrived? The bridge lights flickered. Outside, the first weapon glint from the approaching dreadnoughts blinked, a signal that the celebration had ended. Victory had been short-lived, and Earth's wrath had only just begun. The first pulse hit without warning. Kara's stomach lurched as the Aurora's edge shuddered violently. Alarms screamed. Sparks rained down from overhead panels, the smell of scorched circuitry filling the air. Crew members tumbled, yelping, grasping for something stable. Shields holding. "Barely!" Sora shouted over the chaos, fingers flying across the console. Her usually calm voice cracked under pressure. Jalen's eyes were locked on the viewport, unblinking. The dreadnoughts were colossal, moving with terrifying precision. Every ship seemed alive, responding as if one mind controlled them all. The first few energy bursts had grazed the Aurora's edge, leaving glowing scars across its hull. Kara gritted her teeth, stepping forward. "Options?" Her voice was sharp, command cutting through panic. "Evasive maneuvers," Jalen barked, but even he sounded uncertain. The crew responded instantly, thrusters flaring as the ship twisted, ducked, and rolled. Yet the distant flashes of enemy fire adjusted immediately, tracking them with impossible accuracy. "They're predicting our moves," Sora said, voice trembling. "It's like they know us." Kara's heart hammered. Know us? No fleet could anticipate human unpredictability, unless someone had taught them. But who? And why now, after Lysara? The bridge fell silent again, only the groaning of stressed metal and the crackle of electronics filling the air. Kara's gaze snapped to Jalen. "Earth doesn't attack without reason. So why are they here? Why now?" Jalen didn't answer. Instead, his jaw tightened as he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "We pushed too far, too fast. And now?" His voice trailed off, heavy with meaning. The first dreadnought moved closer, its surface glowing with hundreds of energy arrays, each capable of obliterating a city. The distant flicker of plasma weapons reminded Kara of fireflies, but deadly, precise fireflies, each carrying annihilation. Sora's fingers froze over the controls. "We can't outrun them, not long. Their speed, it's beyond anything we have." Kara swallowed. Fear was a luxury she didn't have. Humans survived by thinking, by exploiting weakness, by refusing to accept impossibility. And yet this was different. These were Earth's dreadnoughts, silent, patient, and overwhelmingly powerful. "Prepare countermeasures," Jalen snapped. "All systems, shields, weapons, decoys. We fight smart or we die." The crew responded like trained predators, their fear fueling focus. Sparks flew as consoles hummed, engines roared, and the Aurora's edge twisted and darted between debris. Kara moved beside Jalen, her eyes scanning the approaching fleet. She felt a strange chill as she studied the shapes of the dreadnoughts. Not all were identical. Some were massive, almost elegant in their design, with glowing blue cores that pulsed rhythmically. Others were brutal, jagged, black as obsidian. There was a pattern, a hierarchy, but it was alien to her understanding. "Look at that," she muttered. "They're organized. More than just fleet formations, they're thinking." Jalen's lips pressed into a thin line. Intelligence, or something that mimics it. Either way, we can't underestimate them. The Aurora's edge dodged another pulse. Metal screamed, hull plating warped. Crew members braced themselves. Kara's mind raced. Every second counted. Each calculation, each choice could mean survival or death. Then came a second pulse, stronger this time. The bridge lights flickered violently. A siren pierced the air, a warning Kara didn't need. Systems were failing. Communications flickered in and out. Outside, the dreadnoughts advanced relentlessly, their sheer presence oppressive, suffocating. Kara gritted her teeth. "We don't give up. We don't surrender. We survive." She had no plan beyond that, but instinct screamed at her to act. She moved toward the console, controlling the ship's tactical systems. "We need a diversion. Something unexpected. Something they wouldn't predict." Jalen nodded. eyes hard. A Hail Mary? Something like that, Kara replied. Her mind flashed with impossible maneuvers, untested tactics, and the kind of human audacity that refused logic. Sora's hands shook as she activated the decoy systems. Holographic signatures exploded around the fleet like ghosts. The dreadnoughts adjusted, but Kara saw hesitation, a microsecond of uncertainty. Enough. Maybe. A massive pulse ripped through the void. The Aurora's edge was slammed sideways, throwing Kara against the console. Pain flared, sharp and burning. She gritted her teeth and got up, ignoring it. There was no time. The dreadnoughts were relentless, closing faster. Every second they hesitated, every second Kara calculated. It was still a race against inevitability. And in the back of her mind, a question screamed, if Earth's wrath is here, are we fighting them? Or something beyond them? The hum of the dreadnoughts grew louder, a voice without words. Every pulse, every movement, carried a message humanity couldn't yet decode. Kara felt it in her bones. This battle wasn't just about survival. It was about proving humanity still mattered, in a universe that suddenly seemed impossibly vast and impossibly hostile. And somewhere deep inside, Kara knew the celebration of victory was over. The reckoning had begun. Engage the plasma arrays, Jalen ordered, voice taut but steady. His eyes never left the viewport, where the dreadnoughts loomed like giants awakening from slumber. Kara's hands flew over the tactical console, feeling the weight of every decision. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and the Aurora's edge and everyone aboard would vanish into the void. Sora hesitated. Sir, even combined, our weapons barely scratch them. We're outmatched. Jalen's jaw clenched. Outmatched doesn't mean outsmarted. Humans survive because we think, not because we follow the rules. Fire anyway. Plasma bolts erupted from the ship, bright streaks of desperate hope cutting through darkness. Against the massive dreadnoughts, the blasts barely left dents, sparks flashing off their reinforced hulls. Kara's stomach twisted. Every hit was a message, we are aware of you. And then something shifted. One of the larger dreadnoughts paused, its core pulsing slower as if considering. Kara's heart jumped, a hesitation. That was all humanity needed. She leaned closer to Sora. Target the gaps, the joints. Look for weakness in what they think is impervious. Sora's fingers danced across the controls. Calculations flared across the displays. Kara could feel the tension radiating off the crew like static electricity. Fear was here, yes, but so was determination. Human stubbornness, their unyielding need to survive. The first strike found its mark. A seam in the dreadnought's hull glowed, molten lines spreading across the metal. Sparks shot outward, and for a moment it staggered. Kara allowed herself a breath of hope. But the moment was fragile, fleeting. Jalen's eyes narrowed. Don't celebrate yet. They'll adapt, and adapt they did. The staggered dreadnought rotated, firing a beam of focused energy that tore through space. Kara's vision shook as the Aurora's edge twisted just in time, the blast missing by meters. Hull plates screamed under the near miss. Structural integrity dropping. Sora shouted. Her voice cracked. We won't survive many more hits like that. Kara pressed a hand to the console, thinking fast. They're big. They're strong. But they're predictable. At the edges. The human's advantage had always been cunning, improvisation. And right now improvisation was all that stood between life and extinction. Prepare the ion flare, she said, voice sharp. Sequence it with the thruster burst. We might just blind them long enough to escape or force a pause. Jalen raised an eyebrow. You're gambling with the ship and crew. Do it. Minutes or maybe seconds stretched into an eternity. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum of war. Kara coordinated, Sora executed, and Jalen oversaw. The ship lurched, decoys flaring, engines screaming, and the ion flare detonated, sending a blinding pulse across the nearest dreadnoughts. For a heartbeat, the universe was white light, silence, chaos. The dreadnoughts faltered. Their formation wavered, hesitant. Kara could almost hear the intelligence behind their movements calculating new possibilities. She gritted her teeth. Now push full thrusters. Break the perimeter. Get out of their range before they recalibrate. The Aurora's edge surged forward, weaving through debris and energy trails. Hull groaned, lights flickered, but the ship moved. Human hearts pounded with every twist, every evasive turn, every fraction of a second gained. But then came the warning. The console blared red. Massive gravitational fluctuation detected. Kara's stomach dropped. The Dreadnoughts weren't just firing. They were manipulating the very space around them. Gravity wells formed, pulling at the ship, bending its path. Impossible, Jalen growled, gripping the railing. They're controlling space itself, Kara's mind raced. If they can bend space, then escape is useless. Unless we can think faster than physics itself. She looked at Sora. Divert all remaining power to the engines and shields. We punch through the core of their formation. No hesitation. Full human audacity. Sora's hands shook, but she obeyed. The engines roared, shields flaring. The Aurora's edge surged forward, ramming through the gravitational waves like a predator charging the unknown. Outside, Dreadnoughts flared, massive hulls twisting in unison. One massive energy beam lanced toward the ship, a silver streak of inevitability. But Kara's calculation, sheer instinct, and human stubbornness made the difference. The beam missed, scorching the void behind them. Jalen exhaled slowly. They're adapting, but we're still alive. Kara felt her chest tighten. Alive, but for how long? Each second brought new danger, new puzzles to solve. Earth's dreadnoughts were not just weapons, they were messengers, carriers of an intelligence that humans barely comprehended. She turned to Jalen, voice low. They didn't just come to punish Lysara. They came for us. They came for everything humanity has claimed, and whatever their endgame is, it's bigger than we imagined. Jalen nodded, his swagger returning, tempered by the knowledge that luck alone would not save them. Then we fight smarter, faster, harder. Humans don't quit. We survive or we die trying. The Aurora's edge slipped through a fleeting gap, temporary safety, but Kara knew it wouldn't last. The Dreadnoughts' patience was infinite. Their intelligence was relentless, and humanity's audacity, that alone would have to be enough. Somewhere deep in the void, the first message arrived, silent, indirect, and terrifying. Victory was never yours. Only survival can be claimed, if you dare. Kara swallowed hard, staring into the abyss. The reckoning was only beginning. Every system is screaming, Sora muttered, fingers hovering over the flickering controls. Her usually precise movements trembled. We can't keep outrunning them forever. Kara's eyes narrowed on the viewport. Ahead, the Dreadnoughts moved with eerie coordination, forming a perfect semicircle, their cores glowing like watchful eyes. The void between stars had become a cage, and the humans were at the center. Jalen gritted his teeth, leaning over the tactical console. Then we don't outrun them. We go inside. Kara froze. Inside, you mean? Breach their formation. That's suicide. Maybe, Jalen admitted. His swagger was tempered by fear now, but he didn't hesitate. Or maybe it's the only way to make them hesitate. Humans survive by forcing the impossible. Sora swallowed hard. If we breach their formation, we're exposed. No cover, no escape if they adapt. Kara's mind raced. The Dreadnoughts weren't just machines. They were extensions of Earth's will, and Earth's will had always been absolute. But humans had audacity, improvisation, and a stubborn refusal to accept fate. And right now they had to use all of it. Then we do it smart, Kara said. Her voice carried authority even she wasn't sure she felt. We hit the gaps, the weak points. Target the cores. Force their attention, make them respond to us, not the void. Jalen smirked, though it didn't reach his eyes. I like the way you think. Let's make them dance. The ship shuddered as the first of the gravitational pulses hit again. Kara gritted her teeth and adjusted the thrusters, weaving through invisible waves that threatened to crush the Aurora's edge. Each movement was precise, calculated, human thought against alien instinct. Sora launched the decoy drones. Tiny ships flared outward, holographic signatures mimicking their trajectory, exploding in sudden bursts of light to confuse the Dreadnought's sensors. One of the larger ships faltered, its core pulsing erratically. Kara allowed herself a flicker of hope. But then came the voice, a voice in the hum almost imperceptible. Not through speakers, not via any comm channel, but something in the vibrations, the subtle modulation of energy that wrapped around the ship. Intruders. Why here? Kara froze. Jalen's eyes met hers. They're communicating through the field, he whispered. Not speech, thought, or a mimic of thought. Sora's hands shook. They know what we're thinking, Kara swallowed. Then we have to think unpredictably, something they can't anticipate. Her mind raced, sifting through desperate possibilities. Every option was dangerous, every plan a gamble. But humans thrived on the impossible. "Prepare the core override," she said. "We're going to target the largest dreadnought first. Force it to shut down temporarily. Then we hit the others in sequence. Precision over power." Jalen's eyebrow lifted. "A surgical strike against a moon-sized ship? You're insane." "Exactly," Kara replied. "Which is why it might just work." Sora hesitated, then nodded. Her fingers danced across the console, launching the override virus. A pulse of golden energy flowed toward the nearest dreadnought, tiny against its massive hull. But enough to seed doubt, disrupt calculations, introduce chaos. The ship jolted violently. Outside, the dreadnought faltered, its formation breaking, energy flares flickering. Kara felt a thrill of victory, fleeting but undeniable. Jalen let out a sharp laugh. "They're human-sized problems now. Let's exploit it." But the laughter died quickly. Another pulse hit stronger, bending the very space around them. The Aurora's edge groaned under the strain. Crew members stumbled, alarms blaring. Kara gritted her teeth and pressed forward. And then she saw it. A shadow moving between the dreadnoughts. Something larger than even their biggest ships. Something that didn't belong. "Jalen, do you see that?" Kara whispered. He nodded slowly, face pale. "It's not one of them. Something else." The shadow shifted, massive and deliberate. It moved as if aware, intelligent, calculating. The humans had thought Earth's wrath was the limit. But now, in the void, a deeper threat revealed itself. A predator beyond even the dreadnoughts. Something ancient, patient, and far more dangerous. Sora's voice trembled. We've stumbled into something bigger. Something beyond the fleet." Kara's mind raced. Human courage had carried them through wars, through the impossible. But this was new. The universe suddenly felt vast and unknowable. Yet fear could not win. Not while humans still drew breath. Jalen gritted his teeth. "Then we face it. Humans survive because we refuse to die quietly. No one outruns the inevitable. But we can fight it, and maybe, just maybe, make them hesitate." Kara looked at the shadow again, colossal against the distant stars. It's watching, waiting, judging, and yet, for the first time, she felt the familiar spark that had carried humanity from planet to planet, war to war, through every impossible odds. "We make our stand," she said softly. "Not for victory, not for glory, but because we must." Outside, the dreadnoughts faltered, the shadow loomed, and the void itself seemed to hold its breath. The reckoning had deepened, and for the humans aboard the Aurora's edge, survival had just become an entirely new kind of war. "Stealth approach confirmed," Sora whispered, sweat streaking her pale face. The Aurora's edge drifted through the shadows of massive dreadnought hulls, each vessel a fortress of metal and light, their cores pulsing like watchful hearts. The larger shadow loomed beyond, silent, observing, waiting. Jalen's eyes narrowed. This is it. One misstep, one miscalculation, and we're toast. No second chances. Kara studied the colossal shape surrounding them. Every human instinct screamed danger, but also opportunity. The dreadnoughts were precise, but precision made patterns. Patterns could be exploited. Humans lived in chaos, thrived in unpredictability. "Target the main command core," Kara said, pointing to the largest dreadnought. "If we take it out, even temporarily, it might disrupt the others. Buy us a gap, maybe even a chance to understand the shadow." Sora's hands shook as she activated the cloaking modules. "Core breach. It's suicide. Even at this distance, the defenses are insane. One hit and we're gone." "We don't have a choice," Kara replied. Her voice was calm, but her mind raced. Fear was a tool if controlled. Panic was deadly. Humans survive because we make impossible choices, Sora. This is ours. The Aurora's edge glided silently, barely visible against the void. Every pulse of energy from the dreadnoughts was a heartbeat Kara felt in her chest. They weren't just ships, they were extensions of Earth's intelligence, reacting, predicting, adapting. And somewhere beyond them, the shadow waited, watching. Jalen leaned over the tactical console, studying the patterns. "There, see that gap in their defenses? Tiny, but it exists. We thread the needle there or we die trying." Kara nodded. "On my mark. All systems forward, shields at minimum. Engines to full. Decoys ready." Seconds stretched into eternity. Kara's pulse raced, every sense alert. She could feel the dreadnoughts noticing, adjusting. One of the smaller ships rotated, its sensors sweeping, its energy ports glowing. "Now," Kara shouted. The Aurora's edge surged forward, twisting, weaving, decoys flaring around them. The ship threaded the gap like a needle, engines screaming, metal groaning. The momentary success felt like triumph, but then the shadow shifted. It moved deliberately, a massive, unknowable shape that seemed to distort space itself. Kara's stomach sank. This wasn't just an observer. This was a predator. And humans were prey, shields, deflectors. Divert everything to the front, Jalen yelled. The ship shuddered as a pulse of energy rippled through the void, bending toward them. Kara gritted her teeth, directing thrusters, weaving, praying. Sora's fingers flew across the console, overriding the Dreadnoughts' automated defense systems. I'm in. The core is vulnerable for 30 seconds. 30 seconds, enough, not enough. Kara calculated every possible outcome, running simulations in her mind faster than any computer could. Humans survived by thinking, by daring, by refusing to accept inevitability. Targeting sequence initiated, Kara said. Charge the breach, the Aurora's edge fired. A beam of concentrated energy lanced into the Dreadnought's main core. Sparks erupted. The massive hull shuddered. For a heartbeat, the Dreadnought faltered, systems blinking, energy surging chaotically. Then came the response. The other ships pulsed in unison, a coordinated backlash. The void seemed alive with pressure waves, energy twisting around them. Kara felt it in her bones. The shadow was not just watching, they were anticipating. Brace for counterstrike, Jalen shouted. Hull plates warped. Alarms screamed. The Aurora's edge shivered violently, systems failing, but the core breach had worked. Temporarily. The massive ship's pulse weakened, and the others staggered, unsure. Kara's breath caught. Victory, even partial, was intoxicating but fleeting. The shadow shifted again, closer now, its presence bending the very light. Kara realized with a chill that the Dreadnoughts were only part of the challenge. The true threat had been waiting, patient and calculating beyond the fleet. Sora's voice trembled. We might have only bought ourselves moments. Jalen's hands tightened on the railing. Moments are enough for humans. Moments turn into survival. And survival. He paused, a faint smirk returning. Survival is what we do best. Kara nodded, gripping the console. The Aurora's edge was battered, systems compromised, but it still moved. They had penetrated the enemy's formation, forced hesitation, and glimpsed the shadow lurking beyond the known universe. But as she stared into the void, Kara realized something terrifying and exhilarating. Survival was no longer about escaping the Dreadnoughts. It was about understanding what had been waiting, calculating and deciding whether humans could truly challenge it. The countdown in her mind was silent, but relentless. Every second, the shadow and the fleet adjusted, waiting for the inevitable human mistake. Yet humanity had never been predictable, and Kara knew, deep in her chest, that unpredictability was the one weapon they had that might still tip the scales. Hold steady, she whispered to the crew. We've survived worse, and we're not done yet. Outside, the void remained silent, but the hum of massive power, the pulse of intelligence, and the shadow's subtle movements reminded them of one undeniable truth. The reckoning was far from over, and the humans of the Aurora's edge had only begun to fight. The bridge was a storm of flickering lights and strained faces. Alarms screamed, consoles spat sparks, and the hum of distant Dreadnoughts pressed against the Aurora's edge like the weight of a living thing. Kara gritted her teeth, scanning the tactical display. They're adapting faster than predicted, she said, voice low but commanding. The breach bought us time, but they've already recalibrated. Sora's fingers trembled over the controls. And the shadow. It's moving, closer, it's aware of us. Reacting to everything we do. Jalen leaned against the railing, jaw tight, eyes cold. Aware or not, humans survive by doing the impossible. And we've done impossible before. Kara nodded, but inside her mind raced. Every moment felt like walking a knife's edge. Every decision. A gamble between survival and annihilation. The shadow wasn't just observing. It was shaping the battlefield. Bending reality around them, testing them, judging them. Divert auxiliary power to the flares, Kara ordered. If the shadow reacts to energy patterns, we need to confuse it, disrupt its calculations. Sora hesitated. That's risky. It could trigger a feedback, destroy the ship. Do it anyway, Kara said, her eyes locking with Sora's. We can't wait. Survival isn't about playing it safe. It's about daring what no one else would. The crew worked in tense synchrony, engines humming, shields flaring, decoy drones spinning into chaotic orbits. The Aurora's edge lurched as gravity pulses from the Dreadnoughts twisted space around them. Kara could feel the ship bending under forces it wasn't designed to withstand. And then it spoke, not in words but in vibrations that rippled through the hull. A deep, resonant hum that felt like a voice threading through every bone, every nerve. "Why do you persist?" Kara swallowed hard. "We persist," she said aloud, more to herself than the ship, "because that's what humans do." The shadow shifted, massive and fluid, its edges folding light like water. It had no face, no identifiable form, but Kara could feel its intelligence, patient, ancient, and terrifyingly precise. It wasn't just a predator, it was a judge. Jalen stepped forward, voice low but firm. "They're testing us, pushing us to see how far we'll go. We can't let them win before the fight even starts." Kara nodded. "Then we escalate. Full systems forward. We hit the next core, not for destruction, but for leverage. We force them to respond on our terms." Sora's hands moved quickly, uploading the next wave of tactical strikes. Energy lanced toward the targeted dreadnought, precise, surgical. The ship shuddered violently as the core glowed, sparks erupting along the hull. For a moment the massive vessel faltered, but then the shadow reacted. The space around the Aurora's edge twisted, bending light, pulling at the ship. Time itself seemed to stretch. The crew's movement slowed, distorted. Kara felt the weight of impossibility pressing down. "Counteract the field," Jalen shouted. "Manual override, reroute everything to engines." Sora's hands flew over the controls, sweat streaking her face. The ship groaned, metal bending, shields flaring in defiance. Kara's mind calculated every possible trajectory, every evasive maneuver, every human instinct honed over centuries of survival. And then came the scream of the void, not a sound but a pressure, a wave of energy that slammed against the ship like a hammer. The hull buckled, lights went dark, and Kara felt herself thrown against the console. Breath ragged, she scrambled up. "Status!" Sora's voice was tight. Shields failing. Hull compromised. Core stabilizers offline. For now, Jalen's jaw was set. "Then we do what humans always do. We fight." Kara's eyes flicked to the tactical display. The shadow loomed closer. The dreadnoughts adjusting, calculating, anticipating. But the humans had something the machines did not. Audacity, unpredictability, and an instinctive refusal to yield. "We have to hit the central node," Kara said. "All weapons, all energy, focused, precision over firepower. If we disrupt it even slightly, it'll buy us space, clarity, maybe even a chance to understand it." The crew obeyed. Every system flared, every thruster screamed. Decoys spun in chaotic patterns. Energy lanced toward the node, a concentrated pulse of human determination. The dreadnoughts pulsed, the shadow shifted, and for a heartbeat the impossible seemed possible. Kara felt something stir inside her. A spark she hadn't realized had been burning through fear and chaos. Humans were fragile, vulnerable, often reckless, but they also endured, adapted, and challenged the impossible with stubborn brilliance. Jalen glanced at her. "This is it, Kara. The moment we either survive or don't." She nodded, voice steady. "Then we make it count. No fear, no hesitation. Only humanity." Outside, the void trembled. The shadow reacted. The dreadnoughts pulsed. And the humans aboard the Aurora's edge prepared to gamble everything on one audacious strike against the unknowable. Because for humanity, survival was never optional. The Aurora's edge shuddered violently, caught in the heart of the shadow's influence. Gravity twisted unnaturally, and the void itself seemed to hum with intelligence, testing every nerve, every thought, every instinct the humans possessed. Kara gritted her teeth, fingers flying over the controls. "Focus on the node. Everything we have." Jalen leaned over her shoulder, eyes narrowing at the viewport. The dreadnoughts were faltering, their formations broken, cores flickering from the previous strikes. Yet the shadow loomed larger than ever, a living darkness stretching across the stars, observing, calculating, judging. Sora's voice trembled but steady. "Node coordinates locked. Energy concentrated. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The ship's systems screamed as every ounce of power funneled into a single precise strike. A pulse of golden energy surged from the Aurora's edge, cutting through the darkness, lancing toward the central node of the massive shadow. Time seemed to slow. Stars stretched, light bent, and for a heartbeat the universe held its breath. The strike hit. The shadow convulsed, energy rippling violently. The Dreadnoughts staggered as if the command controlling them had been interrupted. Kara felt the pulse through the ship, a tremor unlike anything mechanical. Something alive, ancient, intelligent. Status. Jalen shouted, bracing himself. Sora's voice was awed, trembling. It's reacting. Systems destabilizing. The node is collapsing. Kara exhaled, a mix of relief and adrenaline surging through her veins. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself a glimpse of hope. Humanity had forced a pause, a momentary advantage against a foe that seemed invincible. The shadow recoiled, then shifted, its form breaking apart, scattering across space, light bending and refracting, revealing glimpses of vast, incomprehensible structures hidden in the void. The Dreadnoughts faltered, then slowly, almost hesitantly withdrew. The hum in the void faded, leaving only the ringing silence of stars. Jalen slumped against the railing, exhaling. We did it. For now. Kara wiped sweat from her brow, staring out at the distant stars. Not just for now. For humanity. Every impossible choice, every gamble, every act of defiance. It matters. We matter. Sora nodded, tears streaking her face. They came to test us. To end us, and we survived. We made them hesitate. Kara felt a warmth spreading through her chest. Not triumph, not arrogance, but a deep, grounding certainty. Humans survived because they refused to quit, because they dared the impossible, because their spirit could shine even in the darkest voids of the universe. The Dreadnoughts receded into the black, massive forms, disappearing beyond sight. The shadow remained at the edge of perception. No longer a threat for now, but its presence lingered. A reminder that the universe was alive, intelligent, and infinitely larger than any single civilization. Jalen's voice was quiet, almost reverent. They'll come back. Something like that. Always does. Kara turned to him, eyes steady. And we'll be ready. Humans don't surrender. We adapt, we endure, and when the time comes, we fight. Always fight. The crew of the Aurora's Edge exhaled together, a collective release of tension, fear, and relief. Every one of them had stared into the impossible and lived. They had gambled against annihilation and won, if only temporarily. Kara's gaze returned to the stars. Somewhere beyond the distant void, the shadow and its dreadnoughts would be observing, calculating, waiting. But humanity had left its mark. Their audacity, their stubborn refusal to yield, had carved a place in the cosmos, a proof that even against incomprehensible odds, they could endure. Set a course for home, Jalen said, his swagger returning, tempered now by experience and respect for the vast unknown. Kara nodded, a small smile on her lips. Home, and then we prepare. Because the universe doesn't forgive weakness, and neither do we. The Aurora's Edge slipped into the void, battered, scarred, but alive. Humanity had survived its reckoning. And in the quiet aftermath, Kara felt it deep in her chest, the unshakable certainty that no matter what awaited, humans would continue to defy, endure, and rise. Victory had been short-lived. But humanity's spirit was eternal. The stars waited. The shadows waited. And the humans, undaunted, brilliant, defiant, kept moving forward.